The world was on the brink of annihilation. The once vibrant cities of Earth were now smoldering ruins, their towering skyscrapers reduced to rubble. Alien forces, with weapons beyond human imagination, had descended upon Earth, ravaging every corner of the planet. Entire cities had been wiped out in a matter of hours. The relentless onslaught from above and below seemed unstoppable. Alien ships, sleek and menacing, filled the skies, their AI-controlled fleets hovering over Earth, awaiting the final command to eradicate the last remnants of humanity. In the midst of this destruction, hope had all but faded. The few surviving humans had retreated into the shadows, forming small, isolated pockets of resistance. Communications had been severed. Military forces were scattered, unable to mount a proper defense. The aliens had outclassed them technologically, and now, they were closing in for the final blow. With each passing hour, humanity's chances of survival grew slimmer. But beneath the frozen wastelands of the Arctic, something else was stirring. Deep below the ice, a hidden underground base hummed to life. A place known only to a few, a secret that had been buried for decades. As the Earth burned, the base's systems flickered on, its old, ancient machinery slowly awakening. A large chamber, lined with rows of cryogenic pods, began to glow as it powered up. Inside these pods lay Earth's final hope, the Arctic super soldiers. Genetically enhanced warriors, bred for battle, waiting in suspended animation for the day humanity would need them most. The camera zoomed in on one of the pods. Frost clung to the transparent glass as it began to clear, revealing the dormant soldier inside. The air hissed as the pod opened with a mechanical whir. A man, tall and broad-shouldered, slowly awoke. His eyes blinked in the dim light, confused at first, disoriented by the cold air and the strange surroundings. He gasped, feeling the effects of his long sleep. The first thing he noticed was the silence, an eerie quiet that contrasted sharply with the chaos outside. He had no memory of how long he had been asleep, but something inside him told him it was time to wake up. Time to fight. His name was Captain Ronan. A soldier from the past, brought back into this dying world. As he stumbled out of the pod, disoriented, his senses slowly returned. He looked around at the other pods, all lined up, waiting for their turn to awaken. He had heard stories of the Arctic super soldiers before, an elite force of genetically enhanced humans, bred for war and trained in combat. They were the last resort, designed to fight the greatest threats humanity would ever face. And now, the threat had arrived. Suddenly, a voice crackled through the comm system. It was a human voice, tense and urgent. "Captain Ronan, do you read me?" The voice belonged to a scientist named Dr. Bennett, one of the few survivors of the initial alien attacks. Ronan grabbed the nearest communications device, his hands steady despite the chaos around him. "Dr. Bennett, this is Captain Ronan," he responded, his voice hoarse but determined. "What's happening? Where are we?" "We're underground in the Arctic," Dr. Bennett's voice crackled. "I'm not sure how much longer we can stay hidden. The aliens know we're here. Their drones have already started probing the area. You and your team are the last line of defense for Earth. The world depends on you." Ronan felt a cold chill run through him. This was real. There was no going back now. He was no longer just a soldier, he was humanity's final hope. Before he could respond, a loud crash echoed through the base, followed by the hum of approaching machines. The walls shuddered as the alien drones began to swarm. The base's security systems began to light up, but they were quickly overwhelmed. Ronan's heart raced. He grabbed a rifle from a nearby armory, loading it instinctively. He had trained for this moment, even though he didn't know when or why it would come. He had been prepared for the day when humanity's back would be against the wall. With the weapons ready and his comrades emerging from their cryogenic pods, Ronan gathered the Arctic super soldiers. The squad moved with precision, each soldier operating like a well-oiled machine, despite their disorientation. They knew what to do. Their training, their enhancements, kicked in automatically. The first few soldiers shook off the ice that had clung to their bodies, stepping forward with fluid movements, their cybernetic limbs shining under the artificial lights of the underground base. As they moved out into the base's hallways, the sounds of alien drones grew louder. The first wave of attackers appeared on the security monitors, sleek, robotic creatures with glowing red eyes and metal exoskeletons, their movements swift and unnervingly precise. The Arctic soldiers didn't hesitate. They had been trained for this. They were built for this. The first battle broke out almost immediately. Ronan, along with his team, engaged the drones in a brutal firefight. The Arctic super soldiers moved with the precision of hunters, their cybernetic enhancements giving them the upper hand in every attack. They fired their pulse rifles with deadly accuracy, taking down the mechanical invaders with ease. But the drones were relentless, and for every one that fell, 2 more took its place. Ronan dove into action, his years of experience guiding him as he maneuvered through the underground base. He moved swiftly, taking cover behind walls and using the advanced cloaking technology embedded into his suit. One by one, the soldiers fell into line, their weapons blazing as they took down the advancing drones. Ronan couldn't help but feel a spark of hope. These soldiers, despite their confusion, were working as a team, pushing back against the alien invaders. They were making a stand. The action was fast and furious. Sparks flew as pulse rifles collided with alien shields. The sound of gunfire echoed through the metal hallways, punctuated by the mechanical screeching of falling drones. The Arctic soldiers had the edge in terms of strength and technology, but they were outnumbered. Ronan knew this was only the beginning. The alien forces were vast, and the drones were just the first wave. But despite the overwhelming odds, Captain Ronan couldn't shake the feeling that there was something more at play here. Why had Earth been chosen for destruction? Why were the aliens targeting them now? And most importantly, was humanity truly ready to face this threat? The fight continued, and Ronan pushed forward, his mind racing with questions. But one thing was clear, Earth's last hope had just awoken, and the war for humanity's survival had only just begun. The Arctic super soldiers were no ordinary humans. They were the product of years of experimentation, genetically enhanced and cryogenically frozen until the day Earth needed them most. But as they awoke from their long slumber, confusion clouded their minds. Their enhanced bodies, capable of feats far beyond that of a regular human, felt foreign to them. Their memories were fragmented, like broken pieces of a shattered puzzle, and they struggled to piece together who they were. For a moment, they were lost. Captain Ronan watched as the soldiers stumbled out of their cryogenic pods. Their eyes were wide, their movements slow and unsure. They hadn't yet adapted to the changes their bodies had gone through. But the instinct to survive was deeply ingrained within them. They were soldiers, after all. The memory of battle, of sacrifice, burned deep within their muscles and bones. Despite their disorientation, they instinctively knew one thing: they had to fight. The problem was, they didn't know how. Not yet. Ronan, himself a seasoned soldier, understood the urgency of the situation. There was no time to waste. The alien forces were closing in, and Earth's survival depended on these enhanced soldiers adapting quickly to their new reality. As the team leader, he took charge, barking orders, and setting up makeshift training areas within the underground base. The soldiers, though confused, obeyed without hesitation. They were built for combat, but now, they had to learn to fight with the advanced technology and weapons they had never used before. The underground base was a high-tech fortress, hidden deep beneath the Arctic ice. Inside, walls lined with weapons, armor, and tech gadgets hummed with power. The soldiers were shown a variety of futuristic tools, cloaking devices, energy shields, pulse cannons, equipment that would make them nearly unstoppable in battle. But even with these powerful weapons, they still had to adjust. Their enhanced reflexes, strength, and agility gave them an edge, but they weren't fully aware of their potential. The soldiers' bodies had changed, but their minds had to catch up. The training began. At first, it was clumsy. Soldiers struggled with the advanced gear, their cybernetic enhancements causing unexpected reactions. One soldier, Cade, tried to activate his energy shield but accidentally overloaded it, sending a jolt of energy through his system. He staggered backward, rubbing his head. "What the hell was that?" he muttered, his voice still thick with confusion. Ronan was quick to react, stepping in to help. "It's the energy shield. It amplifies your body's natural abilities. Just focus. Take a deep breath, and it will become second nature." Cade nodded and tried again. This time, the shield activated correctly, glowing brightly around him. It hummed with power, an invisible force field capable of withstanding enemy fire. His eyes lit up with realization. "This is incredible," he whispered, awed by the sensation. The others began to adjust as well. The cloaking devices, which allowed them to become nearly invisible to enemy detection, took some getting used to. The soldiers learned to use them quickly, moving through the base like shadows. The pulse cannons, capable of sending out high-powered energy blasts, were heavier than they anticipated, but once they got the hang of it, they became a formidable weapon in their hands. The hardest part, however, was learning to operate the AI-assisted targeting systems that were built into their gear. These systems would lock onto enemy targets and help the soldiers aim their weapons with pinpoint accuracy, but the soldiers weren't used to relying on technology so much. They had been trained to trust their instincts, their human senses. It took time for them to adapt, but soon they were able to synchronize their bodies with the advanced tech. The soldiers were becoming warriors again, and with each passing day, they grew stronger. Through all this, Captain Ronan kept a close eye on the soldiers, offering advice and guidance where needed. But there was one soldier who seemed to stand out more than the others, Seraphina. Her transformation was unique. Before she was altered, she had been a mother, a woman with a family. Her eyes, even now, held a softness, a vulnerability that the other soldiers didn't show. As the days passed, Ronan found himself drawn to her, not just as a fellow soldier, but as a person. Seraphina was struggling more than the others. She had difficulty remembering her past, her life before she was transformed into a super soldier. But there was something else too. Beneath her tough exterior, Ronan could sense the pain in her eyes. She missed her family. She had been taken away from everything she loved, altered beyond recognition, and now, she was fighting for a world she didn't even recognize. One day, as the soldiers finished a grueling training session, Ronan noticed Seraphina standing by herself, looking out over the icy wasteland outside the base. Her face was etched with sadness. Ronan approached her quietly, not wanting to disturb her, but also knowing that she needed someone to talk to. "Seraphina," he said softly, his voice steady but filled with understanding. "How are you holding up?" She didn't look at him right away. Instead, she gazed out into the endless white expanse, her eyes distant. Finally, she spoke. "I was a mother once. I had a family. I remember their faces, their voices, but it feels like a lifetime ago." Her voice cracked, and for a moment, Ronan could hear the anguish beneath her words. "Now, I don't even know who I am anymore. I've been changed. Altered. I don't know if I can do this, fight for a world I barely recognize. I'm not even sure if I still have a place in it." Ronan stood beside her, understanding her pain. "I get it," he said, his voice low. "This isn't easy. But you're not alone. None of you are. We're all in this together, and we fight not just for this world, but for everything we lost." He paused, placing a hand on her shoulder. "You may have been a mother, but you're still you. And that's who we need right now." Seraphina turned to face him, her eyes red but filled with a renewed determination. "I'm ready," she said, her voice steady once again. "I'll fight. For my family. For the future. For Earth. The bond between Ronan and Serafina grew stronger with each passing day. As the soldiers continued their training, the emotional connection between them deepened. Ronan became a mentor, guiding them not just in battle tactics, but in accepting their new roles as Earth's last defenders. The soldiers began to see themselves not just as enhanced warriors, but as humans, with memories, emotions, and the drive to protect what was left of their world. But time was running out. The alien forces had begun their advance. Scouts were sent out to search for the base, and it was only a matter of time before they discovered its location. Ronan knew that their first battle was imminent. With their training nearly complete, the Arctic super soldiers were ready. It was time for them to take the fight to the enemy. As the team gathered, preparing for the mission ahead, the tension in the air was palpable. Ronan turned to Serafina, giving her a nod of encouragement. "We're ready. Let's show them what we're made of." The soldiers, now fully equipped with their advanced technology and enhanced abilities, stood tall and proud. They had come a long way from their initial confusion. They had trained, bonded, and learned to fight as a team. And now, they would face their first test in the battlefield. Their first skirmish with the alien scouting party would be the true measure of their abilities, and the beginning of the war for Earth's survival. The Arctic super soldiers had come a long way since their awakening. Their bodies, enhanced beyond human limits, had become the ultimate weapons in the fight to save Earth. Their training had been intense, and their bond as a team had grown stronger every day. Now, they were ready for their first real test. The stakes were higher than ever, as Earth's resistance had decided it was time to strike back. The mission was bold, perhaps even reckless, but it was their best shot at taking down the alien invaders once and for all. The plan was to infiltrate the heart of the alien forces, a massive alien city, which served as the nerve center for their operations. It was there, deep within the city's fortified walls, that the alien mothership was located. The mothership was the source of the invaders' overwhelming power, and Earth's resistance needed to disable it before it could destroy what little was left of humanity. The soldiers were equipped with the most advanced technology at their disposal, including cloaking devices that would make them invisible to the enemy. Their mission was clear: infiltrate the city, disable the alien communication systems, and gather vital intel. Meanwhile, Captain Ronan and the remaining survivors would create chaos above ground, drawing the enemy's attention away from the real threat lurking beneath their feet. With the city in sight, the soldiers moved like shadows, their cloaking devices rendering them invisible to the alien forces. They slipped past guards, avoided security systems, and made their way deeper into the heart of the city. Their objective was simple: find and disable the alien communication systems, crippling the enemy's ability to coordinate their forces. As they moved silently through the alien city, the soldiers marveled at the architecture around them. Towering skyscrapers made of strange, metallic materials stretched high into the sky, and glowing alien ships hovered above them, casting eerie, pulsating lights on the city below. It was a world unlike anything they had ever seen, a cold, alien place full of terrifying advanced technology. The team split up, each soldier tasked with disabling key parts of the alien infrastructure. Serafina, her mind focused and determined, moved swiftly through the shadows, her pulse rifle at the ready. She slipped past an alien guard, who was too busy with his duties to notice the fleeting shape that passed him. She approached a communication relay, her hand steady as she carefully planted the sabotage device. Her enhanced senses told her everything she needed to know: the clock was ticking, and time was running out. Meanwhile, Captain Ronan and the survivors above ground were causing chaos as planned. They set off explosions, took out alien patrols, and created as much noise as possible to divert the enemy's attention. It wasn't easy, but they had learned to adapt to the alien forces' tactics, using their surroundings to their advantage. The soldiers continued their mission undetected, slowly making progress as they disabled critical systems. They were on the verge of success when they stumbled upon something far more dangerous than they had anticipated, something that would change the course of the war. As they entered a massive building at the center of the city, they found themselves standing in front of a colossal structure, an alien weapon that looked like nothing they had ever seen before. It was a massive satellite cannon, capable of firing a beam powerful enough to destroy entire planets. The soldiers stood frozen in awe as they realized the true scale of the alien threat. This weapon wasn't just a tool of conquest, it was a doomsday device, capable of obliterating Earth in a single shot. The revelation sent a chill through them, but it also gave them clarity. They now knew that stopping the mothership was only half the battle. If they didn't disable the cannon, the aliens could destroy Earth before they even had a chance to fight back. Without wasting any time, the soldiers sprang into action. They moved quickly, planting sabotage charges near the base of the cannon. They had to disable it before it could be used against them. But just as they were about to complete their mission, disaster struck. An alien force, having realized that something was wrong, ambushed them. The soldiers were surrounded, trapped in the heart of the enemy's base. The air crackled with tension as the alien forces descended upon them. The soldiers fought back fiercely, their enhanced bodies giving them an edge in combat. Serafina, her pulse rifle blasting away at the enemy, worked in tandem with Cade, who was using his cloaking device to slip behind enemy lines and take out alien soldiers one by one. The alien soldiers, though technologically advanced, were no match for the sheer strength and skill of the Arctic super soldiers. Captain Ronan, leading the charge, fought with a determination that came from years of experience. His movements were fluid, his actions calculated. He fired his pulse rifle with precision, cutting down enemies as they charged. But it was clear that the enemy forces were overwhelming, and the soldiers were beginning to feel the pressure. The ambush was taking its toll. The fight was brutal. Alien soldiers with cybernetic enhancements and high-tech weapons clashed with the human soldiers in a series of intense firefights. Pulse rifles tore through the air, exploding in brilliant flashes of energy, while hand-to-hand combat erupted as the soldiers used their enhanced strength and agility to outmaneuver their enemies. The battlefield became a chaotic dance of death, with soldiers on both sides desperately trying to gain the upper hand. In the middle of the chaos, Ronan spotted something that made his heart race, a towering alien figure, a commander of sorts, wielding a massive energy blade. The commander was cutting through the human soldiers with ease, his attacks swift and brutal. Ronan knew that if they didn't take this figure down, the entire mission could be jeopardized. With a battle cry, Ronan charged forward, his pulse rifle raised, and engaged the commander in a one-on-one battle. The clash was fierce, with sparks flying as Ronan's rifle met the commander's blade. The sound of metal striking metal filled the air as the two warriors locked in a deadly dance. At the same time, Serafina and the others continued their fight, using their advanced technology and combat skills to keep the enemy at bay. The soldiers, though outnumbered, were relentless. They fought with a fierceness born of desperation, the fate of Earth depended on their success. The battle waged on for what felt like hours, but eventually, the soldiers began to gain ground. The alien forces, though powerful, were starting to falter. The soldiers' enhanced strength, their teamwork, and their unyielding determination were proving to be too much for the aliens to handle. Just when it seemed like the soldiers might win, disaster struck again. A huge alien ship descended from the sky, unleashing a barrage of energy blasts that rocked the entire city. The soldiers were thrown off balance as explosions erupted around them. The alien mothership had arrived. In that moment, Ronan knew that their mission was far from over. The true battle for Earth had only just begun. The stakes were higher than ever, and the soldiers had no choice but to press on. With their cloaking devices, advanced weaponry, and unbreakable will, they prepared to take the fight to the heart of the alien invasion. This first strike had been successful in part. The soldiers had crippled the alien communication systems and discovered the weapon that could destroy Earth. But the battle was far from over. The real fight was just beginning, and the Arctic super soldiers had no choice but to press forward. The fate of Earth rested on their shoulders. As the soldiers regrouped and prepared for the next phase of their mission, Ronan gave them a nod of approval. This is only the beginning. We've come too far to turn back now. Let's finish this. With that, the Arctic super soldiers, now battle-hardened and united in their cause, prepared to take on the alien forces head-on. The war for Earth had just begun, and they would stop at nothing to ensure humanity's survival. The Arctic super soldiers had proven themselves in battle time and time again. They had taken down alien patrols, infiltrated enemy bases, and gathered crucial intelligence. With each victory, the resistance grew stronger, and the hope of humanity's survival seemed a little bit brighter. But even as they gained ground, something darker was lurking in the shadows, waiting to strike. Captain Ronan had always trusted his soldiers, and their unity had been their greatest strength. But now, doubts began to creep into his mind. Strange things were happening. Whispers in the dark corners of their camp, little mistakes that seemed too perfectly timed, and a sense of unease that no one could shake. Despite their victories, something felt off. The betrayal came when they least expected it, during a critical operation. The soldiers were tasked with infiltrating a high-security alien facility where a new weapon was being developed, one that could change the course of the war. It was a dangerous mission, but the Arctic super soldiers had the best chance of succeeding. They were quick, efficient, and nearly invincible with their enhanced bodies and advanced technology. Or so they thought. As they prepared for the mission, everything seemed to be in order. The plan was simple: infiltrate the facility, destroy the weapon, and get out before the aliens could retaliate. Ronan and his team, including Serafina and Bonner, were briefed on the mission details. Bonner, a seasoned soldier, had been with them from the beginning. He had proven himself time and again, and his leadership was a source of strength for the entire group. His unwavering loyalty had made him a trusted member of the resistance. But the mission would not go as planned. As they infiltrated the facility, everything went smoothly at first. The soldiers moved silently through the alien complex, using their cloaking devices to avoid detection. Their target, the new weapon, was in sight. They were moments away from completing their mission when disaster struck. The moment they were about to breach the final door, a loud explosion rocked the facility. The ground beneath their feet trembled as a hidden trap was triggered. It was an ambush. For a split second, Ronan and the others were disoriented. The blast was blinding, and the soldiers were thrown to the ground, their systems scrambling to reboot. When they finally regained their senses, they realized the truth. The ambush was not random. It was orchestrated by someone on the inside. Someone who had been working against them from the very beginning. The traitor was one of their own. Bonner, who had been by their side for so long, was dead. The blast had taken him out in an instant, his body nothing more than a mangled heap of flesh and metal. It was a devastating loss for the group. Bonner had been a symbol of hope and strength for the resistance, and now he was gone. His sacrifice was a brutal reminder of the price of war, but it was also the catalyst that would drive the remaining soldiers to push forward. The shock of losing Bonner was unbearable. Serafina, her heart breaking, knelt beside his body. Tears welled in her eyes as she tried to comprehend what had just happened. The pain was unbearable, but there was no time to grieve. They had to keep moving. They had to honor Bonner's sacrifice by finishing the mission he had started. But the loss weighed heavily on them. Ronan stood frozen, his mind racing as he tried to piece together what had happened. He couldn't believe it. Bonner had been loyal, had fought with them through every battle. There was no way he could have been the traitor. But as the realization slowly began to set in, the truth became clear. Bonner had never been the man they thought he was. He had been implanted with a sleeper agent chip, programmed to betray them when the time was right. It was the perfect plan. The alien AI had placed a spy among them, a soldier who appeared to be one of their own but was secretly working against them. Bonner had never truly been on their side. He had been a puppet, manipulated by the alien forces, feeding them information, sabotaging their efforts, and waiting for the right moment to strike. The betrayal stung more than the loss itself. It was a violation of everything they had fought for. As the soldiers processed the betrayal, tensions began to rise within the group. The anger was palpable. How could they have been so blind? How could they not have seen the signs? They had trusted Bonner, and now he was gone, taking their hopes with him. It was a bitter pill to swallow. Serafina, her emotions raw, stood up, her fists clenched in anger. She wanted to scream, to lash out at the world for taking away her comrade, her friend. But she knew that wouldn't bring him back. It wouldn't change the reality they were facing. The war wasn't over, and the alien forces would stop at nothing to destroy humanity. They couldn't afford to lose focus now. Ronan's mind was a storm of thoughts. Bonner's death had shaken him to his core, but he knew that he couldn't afford to break down. He had to lead his team through this. They had to honor Bonner's sacrifice, not by giving up, but by finishing the mission. He had always believed that the human spirit could overcome anything. But now, faced with this betrayal, he wasn't sure anymore. It was a test of his leadership, his resolve. And the pressure was immense. In the days that followed, the group struggled with the emotional weight of the betrayal. Each soldier dealt with the loss in their own way. Some were angry, others were consumed by guilt. But there was one thing they all knew: the fight was far from over. They couldn't let Bonner's death be in vain. The aliens had taken one of their own, and now they would pay the price. Ronan and Serafina, determined not to let the betrayal tear them apart, took charge of the mission. They would not be derailed by the loss of their friend. Together, with the remaining soldiers, they pressed on. The mission to destroy the alien weapon was still in play, and the fate of Earth rested on their shoulders. As the soldiers prepared for their next strike, the sense of hopelessness began to lift. They still had each other. They still had their mission. And most importantly, they still had the will to fight. Bonner's death would not be forgotten, but it would drive them forward. They would avenge him, and they would stop the alien invasion, no matter the cost. In the quiet moments before the next battle, Ronan looked out over the ruined landscape. He thought of Bonner, and of all the sacrifices that had been made. He knew that the fight ahead would be harder than anything they had faced before. But he also knew that the human spirit was stronger than any enemy they could face. The war was far from over, and they would continue the fight. For Bonner, for Earth, and for all the innocent lives lost along the way. The betrayal had cut deep, but it had also awakened something in them, a fierceness, a determination to never give up, no matter the odds. The alien forces had made a grave mistake by underestimating humanity. And now, they would learn what it meant to face the wrath of the Arctic super soldiers. The alien mothership loomed large in the sky, its massive form casting a shadow over the Earth's last remaining stronghold. The final battle for humanity's survival had come. It wasn't just the end of a war, it was the culmination of years of pain, loss, and sacrifice. The Arctic super soldiers, once confused and disoriented, had become Earth's last line of defense. Now, fully synchronized with the remaining human forces, they were ready to launch their final offensive against the alien invaders. Captain Ronan stood with his back to the soldiers, looking out at the massive fleet of alien ships preparing for their assault. His mind raced, but he remained calm. His team, the last hope for Earth, had come a long way from the confused, scattered soldiers they once were. Now, they were a finely tuned force of nature, each soldier enhanced, skilled, and driven by a single, unified goal: victory. The alien mothership was the key. Destroy it, and the entire alien fleet would collapse. But getting inside wouldn't be easy. The mothership was heavily guarded, protected by AI drones, defense grids, and the alien overlords themselves. Ronan knew this battle would be their hardest yet. The stakes were higher than ever before, and the weight of Earth's survival rested on their shoulders. The final assault began with a synchronized attack from Earth's remaining forces. Space battles unfolded above them, with human fighter jets weaving through alien gunfire and engaging in epic dogfights against the much larger alien warships. Earth's ships were outnumbered, but the humans fought with a ferocity that shocked their alien enemies. Every missile launched, every strike from their pulse cannons was a declaration: humanity would not be exterminated. On the ground, the Arctic super soldiers prepared for their own part of the mission. Using their cloaking devices, they infiltrated the mothership, slipping past alien sensors and defense systems undetected. They were ghosts in the night, moving silently as they advanced toward the heart of the alien stronghold. Ronan and his team had trained for this moment. Every lesson learned, every battle fought had prepared them for this. They knew their technology and weapons inside and out, from the pulse rifles that could melt through alien armor to the cloaking systems that made them invisible to detection. They were unstoppable, but they needed to be strategic. One wrong move, and they could lose everything. As the soldiers made their way deeper into the mothership, the air thickened with tension. Each step felt like an eternity. They knew the stakes. This wasn't just about winning, it was about survival, about avenging the millions of lives lost to the alien invasion. Every soldier had something to fight for: family, friends, the memory of comrades who had fallen. It was this drive that kept them going, even as the odds seemed impossible. Ronan, Serafina, and the other soldiers moved in perfect coordination. Serafina, her enhanced abilities giving her unmatched agility, was the first to disable a key security checkpoint, allowing the others to move forward. Her eyes scanned the area, alert for any signs of movement, as the team followed in her footsteps. They moved swiftly, silently, and with deadly precision. Meanwhile, Ronan led the ground assault against the alien forces. The AI-controlled drones, designed for relentless attack and defense, proved to be formidable enemies. But Ronan and his team fought with an unmatched determination, their every move calculated and precise. The AI enemies were fast, but their lack of true human creativity and intuition made them predictable. The Arctic super soldiers used that to their advantage, outthinking the machines at every turn. The battle raged on as the human forces fought fiercely above and below. Above, fighter jets darted between towering alien ships, unleashing volleys of missiles that lit up the sky. Below, Ronan and Serafina engaged in brutal hand-to-hand combat with alien soldiers, their weapons flashing as they fought for their lives. The aliens were relentless, but the human spirit was stronger. Ronan's pulse rifle hummed as it fired, each shot a burst of energy that tore through the alien forces. He was a leader in every sense of the word, pushing his team forward, urging them to keep going. His heart raced with each explosion that rocked the mothership, but he didn't falter. He couldn't afford to. Not now. Serafina, her enhanced strength and speed unmatched by any alien, was a force of nature. She moved like a shadow, her pulse rifle blazing as she took down alien soldiers one after another. But it wasn't just her strength that made her a valuable member of the team, it was her unwavering determination. She was fighting for her past, for the life she had lost, and for the people who had given everything to see humanity survive. As the team reached the heart of the mothership, they encountered the alien overlords, the leaders of the invasion. They were unlike anything the humans had ever seen, towering, monstrous beings with advanced cybernetic enhancements. Their presence was overwhelming, and their power was immense. But Ronan and his team were not afraid. They had faced impossible odds before, and they would do it again. The confrontation was inevitable. The battle that ensued was nothing short of legendary. Ronan and Serafina, alongside the other soldiers, clashed with the alien overlords in a fierce, brutal combat. The sound of energy weapons firing, the clash of metal against metal, and the roar of combat filled the air as they fought for the fate of Earth. Each of the soldiers had their moment to shine. One soldier, equipped with a cloaking device, took down an alien leader by infiltrating the enemy's ranks undetected. Another soldier, with a pulse cannon in hand, fired a devastating shot that crippled the alien mothership's main weapon. It was a chaotic, brutal fight, but every soldier fought with a single goal, to end the alien threat once and for all. Ronan and Seraphina, locked in a fierce battle with the alien overlord, fought with everything they had. Seraphina's agility allowed her to dodge the overlord's attacks, while Ronan's strength and precision kept the enemy on the defensive. The alien overlord was powerful, but its arrogance was its downfall. It underestimated the strength of the human will. With a final, explosive clash, Ronan and Seraphina managed to disable the alien overlord, sending it crashing to the ground. The remaining soldiers, witnessing the defeat of the overlords, rallied together for one last push. They launched their final strike against the mothership, using everything they had to disable its defenses and bring it down. The alien fleet, now leaderless and in disarray, was no match for the combined forces of Earth. The skies erupted in explosions as the last of the alien warships fell from the sky. The battle was won, but at a great cost. The resistance had given everything to ensure humanity's survival. As Ronan stood amidst the wreckage of the mothership, he looked out at the ruined landscape. The battle had been long, and the scars of war were everywhere. But humanity had triumphed. Against all odds, they had defeated the alien invaders. The Arctic super soldiers had been the key to victory, and their sacrifice would never be forgotten. The fight was over, but the journey was just beginning. The Earth had been saved, but there was still much to rebuild. The sacrifices made during the war would never be erased, but they had paved the way for a new future. Ronan and his team had proven that humanity's will to survive was unbreakable. And now, they would work together to rebuild a world free from the threat of alien domination. In the end, it wasn't just technology that had won the war, it was the strength of the human spirit. And as Ronan looked out over the horizon, he knew one thing for certain: no matter what came next, humanity would always find a way to fight back. The final moments of the battle felt like an eternity. The air was thick with smoke and the sounds of distant explosions echoed in the background. Ronan's heart pounded in his chest, but he kept his focus. The battle for Earth was far from over. The alien mothership, still hovering over the ruined landscape, was their last obstacle. If they could take it down, humanity would have a chance to rebuild. But to do so, they would have to face the ultimate enemy, the alien commander. The alien commander, a terrifying being infused with AI technology, was unlike anything Ronan had ever seen. Its body was a blend of flesh and machine, its eyes glowing with cold, calculating intelligence. The commander had never seen humanity as anything more than an inferior species, something to be crushed underfoot. Its arrogance was evident in every movement, every word it spoke. It had watched as human forces struggled and faltered, thinking it would be an easy victory. But Ronan and his team had proven the aliens wrong. Now, they were about to face the final test. Ronan's pulse rifle hummed as he aimed it at the alien commander, but he knew this fight would be different. This wouldn't be a battle won by weapons alone. The alien commander was a being of pure logic and ruthlessness. It would take everything Ronan had, and more, to defeat it. His breath came in shallow gasps as he stared down the commander, his hands gripping his weapon tightly. He had led his team through countless battles, but this would be the most difficult test of all. The alien commander's voice echoed through the battlefield, its tone mocking. "You believe you can defeat me, human? Your species is nothing more than a fleeting moment in the history of the universe. Your efforts are futile." Ronan's eyes narrowed. He had heard the commander's taunts before. But this time, he wasn't going to back down. The alien species had underestimated humanity, thinking their will to survive would crumble. But Ronan knew that humanity's strength wasn't in their technology or their weapons, it was in their spirit. That was something the aliens would never understand. As the two opponents faced each other, the battle began in earnest. The alien commander moved with lightning speed, its cybernetic limbs and enhanced reflexes making it a formidable foe. Ronan was no slouch, though. He dodged and fired, trying to land a hit, but the commander was too fast, its movements a blur. Every time Ronan thought he had an opening, the commander countered, its AI-driven intelligence predicting his moves before he could make them. The battle raged on, with neither side gaining the upper hand. Ronan was exhausted, his muscles burning from the effort. He could see the alien commander's cold, calculating gaze, and he knew it would take everything he had to overcome it. But just as hope seemed to fade, a voice broke through the chaos. "Ronan." It was Seraphina. She had been with him through every battle, every hardship, and now she was standing beside him, ready to fight. Her enhanced abilities made her a force to be reckoned with, and together, they could take down the alien commander. But there was one problem: Seraphina was injured. She had been wounded in a previous battle, and though she pushed through the pain, Ronan could see the toll it was taking on her. "Stay back," Ronan ordered, but Seraphina shook her head. "I'm not leaving you," she said, her voice firm. "We finish this together." Despite her injuries, Seraphina was determined to fight. Together, they launched a coordinated attack against the alien commander. Ronan's pulse rifle fired, while Seraphina used her enhanced strength to dodge the commander's blows, landing swift strikes when she could. It was a relentless battle, each side pushing the other to their limits. The alien commander fought back with all its AI-driven might, but humanity's sheer will to survive was starting to show. It was in that moment, when victory seemed within reach, that the unexpected happened. The alien commander, seeing that it was losing, activated a hidden weapon, a self-destruct mechanism built into its cybernetic body. The explosion would destroy the mothership, along with everyone aboard, including Ronan, Seraphina, and the rest of the resistance. But Seraphina, realizing the danger, acted without hesitation. "Ronan," she cried out, her voice filled with desperation. "Get back." But it was too late. Seraphina, in a final act of heroism, leaped toward the commander, her body slamming into it with all the strength she had left. She made contact just as the self-destruct mechanism activated. A blinding light enveloped the battlefield as the explosion ripped through the air, and for a moment, everything went silent. When the dust cleared, Ronan staggered to his feet, his heart pounding in his chest. The alien commander was gone. The mothership was destroyed, its wreckage scattering across the sky. But the victory was bittersweet. Seraphina was gone. Her sacrifice had ensured the survival of humanity, but it had cost her everything. Ronan stood alone amidst the wreckage, his heart heavy with grief. He had lost a comrade, a friend, someone who had fought beside him through every battle. Seraphina had given her life to ensure that humanity would survive, and Ronan knew that he would never forget her sacrifice. She had shown him what true courage meant, what it meant to put everything on the line for the greater good. He couldn't allow her death to be in vain. He couldn't allow the alien invaders to win, not after everything they had been through. With Seraphina's death, humanity's survival was secured. The remaining forces, both human and Arctic soldiers, rallied together to rebuild what had been lost. The alien threat was over, but the scars of war would remain. The survivors knew that they had to honor the fallen, to ensure that their sacrifices were never forgotten. Ronan looked around at the people who had fought beside him, the soldiers who had given everything to protect Earth. They were no longer just soldiers, they were survivors. They had won, but at a great cost. Now, they would rebuild, not just their cities, but their lives. The war had ended, but the real work had just begun. As Ronan walked away from the battlefield, he looked up at the sky, the sun beginning to rise over the horizon. The Earth had been saved, but there was still so much to do. The alien ships were gone, their AI tyranny shattered, but the fight for humanity's future was just beginning. Ronan vowed that he would honor Seraphina's sacrifice, and that he would ensure the Earth was rebuilt, not just for the survivors, but for the memory of those who had fallen. And as he moved forward, he knew one thing for certain: humanity would rise again. The strength of the human spirit had defeated the aliens, and it would rebuild the Earth, piece by piece. The war was over, but humanity's journey was just beginning. And Ronan would lead them, with Seraphina's memory burning in his heart, to a future free from the shadow of the alien invaders.